There is, of course, this exchange program that's going on that is a shocking revelation unto itself. But what is more intriguing, as we're here talking about today, is your evolution of how you went on from that environment to lead science in a whole new direction, in the sense of this Ganesh particle, in the sense of breaking apart the very fabric of creation. Give us an idea of what interaction you had with J-Rod that led you on this path where you are now with the Lotus Project.
Well, the only direct connection was the imparting of how life began.
Right,
from
and
his perspective.
we wanted to finish that story. How he showed you how the universe began, or life began?
No. He showed me how teardrops were separated into multiple, and I suppose at the time that he was talking about cladism, but how teardrops were separated into the main domains of life. And the shocking thing about this, you know those little toys where you can press from the bottom and the imprint of your hand pops up?
The needles.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Through that, I saw a human being's face come out of a red background. And it shocked me because, you know, I had, for a short period of time at least, had been to Sunday school and learned about Adam and you know, the idea that he may have come from the red clay and all of that, but it came out of a red background. And at that point, I was asking myself, am I looking at the birth of humanity here? And he said that that was his opinion about it, that he had learned from his mother.
Is that right?
That's the only real connection.
Okay.
The other thing, which, you know, later on, we're talking 2001 now, when we went out, the wife and myself went out to Frenchman Mountain to do a fairly prosaic endosymbiosis study. It was fairly funded, but it was just to keep me happy while I was doing important things that they considered important. I was interested in eukaryotic evolution, so we were out there looking for biotype. And I had I theorized that we were dealing with a triumvirate type original virus, which may have related to panspermia. So we went out there, and we were met by an older gentleman who talked about flames coming off from the Vishnu schist area. He, in fact, was a Native American gentleman. Don't know his name, never saw him again. So I said, flames, that's interesting. So he kind of said, well, if you shine light on the rocks, you'll see flames coming from the rock. Well, I said, okay, well, fine. We'll work on this thing, and what the heck. So we put a laser on the rock and turned the film on, and gradually the laser went out, and I cussed the laser out, and it was a pen laser, you know, like this.
All right.
You know, one of the normal 3A type lasers. Right. Yeah. I didn't know why the laser went out. Well, the battery drained. We had run into something, and I had no idea what it was. It was totally by happenstance.
This is on Frenchman's Mountains.
Right. It was at it was just above the Great Unconformity area, right off from Lake Mead.
And this is ancient bedrock.
We're talking 1.7 billion years old, the Vishnu schist. But the area that we were at was just above the Vishnu schist, which is going up into the Tapete sandstone area, and where there is potassium feldspar. And we were on a little cliff there of feldspar. And so we took the video back home. Right. I thought, you know, big deal. And I watched it. Well, I had some Cladophora, glomerata algae that was sitting there, because he said, you know, it had to have life, and we had some samples with us and all of that. Had to have life involved with it.
Some biological samples was needed.
Right.
Okay.
And we had taken them from elsewhere out of a wash, because I was going to use them when we got home. And then I noticed in the video that there was a flare, it looked like a flare, pass at 6 millimeters per second across the face of the Cladophora. And that's when the laser went out, right after that little flare passed. And I said, what the heck is this? So we went back and we tried to replicate it, and we replicated it. Well, this moved on from there to dealing with just the rock, and finally we began delimiting the intervening variables so that we knew what would cause the phenomenon. This is one of the more controversial things that actually went out to the public, and that's why I know, and you know what's going to be said near the end of the presentation, why I'm happy to be able to talk about it here today. In any case, we were gradually able to, with high performance, replicate the phenomenon both in a higher energy as well as a lower energy form. And we knew exactly what optics train we were to use with a compound microscope to do it.
And to the layperson, that means?
We figured out how to use a microscope to get it working right every time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And when you say get it working right, what in fact were you doing?
What we were doing is we were stimulating the surface of any silicon oxide with a laser not more powerful than, in fact, not any more powerful than this, and a 9-volt battery, which was restricted, and marine water, ocean water. And we learned with the right optics train, the right restriction of energy across the surface, how to get a peculiar phenomenon to be evoked above the surface of the silicate, like quartz.
When you say phenomena, are we talking about biophotons?
Biophotons are involved, and in fact, we have film of them being involved.
Well, we have some slides too. Let's go back to the PowerPoint because I think we have some demonstrations of what we were talking about as far as the microscope images. You have a few here that are taken directly from your microscope view, I believe.
Yeah, that was filmed in the presence of a couple members of the public who, because we were not willing to provide the optics train, one of them flew all the way from England. And then after we wouldn't provide him with the optics train, after we told him that we wouldn't, he did it twice, that we would not provide him the optics train because this can be turned into a weapon. And we're going to be showing, a film of how it can be turned into a weapon as well to the assembled audience that we'll speak about here in a moment.
Okay. And what are we looking at in this slide here?
You are looking at a peculiar plasma phenomenon off the surface of quartz. The round-looking thing on top is actually what we nicknamed a portal. That is a singular phenomenon. The area immediately under that, going from left to right, is another one of the singular phenomenons. The material being ejected off to the right is an aggregate of material which is assembled in the outer periphery of the phenomenon and then is ejected out and affects cells in our environment. We're presently theorizing that this could be a new variety of horizontal gene transfer, something akin to what we call transduction. And in fact, along a viral type, retroviral type pathway, but an augmented retroviral type pathway. So what you're looking at here is you're looking at a portal firing a particle. And we came to nickname these particles by different names. The one which became the most famous nickname was called a Ganesh particle. And we did so only because we had to call them something. We didn't know what they are. And to date, we still truly don't know exactly what they are. We know more of what they do. We've assembled a proposed preliminary system, but we don't know exactly what they truly are. It's been suggested by such people as Bill Hamilton that they may be the Pavitrakas of the ancients, the ancient Hindus.
From their Sanskrit, from their Vedas?
Absolutely. That these metamaterials, these subtle matter materials, are the things which they believe come and animate their idols. I'm not certain, but it's possible. You're looking at a high-resolution image annotated on bottom with what you're looking at, as well as annotated by perspective on the top of a portal. This image was actually enhanced using software from S4. I was allowed to borrow some software for a while.
Is that right?
Yep.
Interesting.
We nicknamed it Shady Soft because the nickname for S4 is the Shady Rest, the old Petticoat Junction nicknames. And what you see in the top center is the object of greatest interest to me, the thing which is bordered or bracketed by the yellow brackets. They're microshards. We believe to be microshards of quartz crystals. What these particles seem to be is they seem to be enclosed microshards that are then in acoustic communication with the source, which would be somewhere near the center of the portal ring. What that source is, we do not know. And we know that they respond to acoustic stimulation because of Marcia's work with them. She began speaking to me while she was watching what came to be known as a selkie, a class 3, class C particle. And she began speaking to me, and as she spoke, she watched its behavior change. So she finally started saying, boo, boo, and she watched it change as she was over the microscope. Well, from there, we learned that, in fact, they respond to acoustic stimulation.
Which is a whole other area of research.
And we're going to be showing absolute, undeniable, reproducible proof of that soon.
This, of course, is...
That was the explosion.
This right here.
Yep. If you put the wrong kind of tones into the system, what you see being ejected to the upper left was the head of my microscope, and it was lodged into the ceiling of my apartment.
So this actually
during
blew
this
up your very expensive...
Yes. Well, I didn't buy it, thank God. But
right.
yes, it was a compound microscope. The large ball of light in the center is a ball of heat. You can see the heat spreading down onto the table. We have film of this. You're just seeing a still of it. We've got actual film of the accident happening, and the color image is on the right. The little spot of red on the right was the flash off from my wife's face as the explosion occurred. I yelled down. I got down onto the floor. Marcia was watching through the internet cam from another perspective. In other words, we have it from two perspectives as the explosion happened. She was severely burned during it. She lost her eyebrows and all of that. She didn't get down in time.
It's lucky that that's all that happened, really, when you think about it. You're tinkering with the fabric of creation here, and we're going to get into the fact that you have had some sort of angelic experience, whether it's related to this research or not. Well, let me ask you right now, do you think it is?
Yep.
Because
I'm hesitant to apply the word angel.
It's a lack of a better word, but it's some sort of, I wouldn't say a divine.
And I would probably, while I will not deny what happened to me years ago when I was very sick, and the Catholic Church has this on record.
You had a high fever?
1981. No, I had a demyelinating process. I was dying. I was blind and dying. And the demyelination process went away instantly. It happened here in Las Vegas at a healing service from Father Ralph Diorio, who is a known healer out of Worcester, Massachusetts. And this is on record with the Catholic Church. It's verified.
A spontaneous, miraculous healing, for lack of a better
It
phrase.
was a miraculous healing. I have no doubt that the love that was encountered at that moment goes beyond
mere
words.
mortal
Well, there are no words.
Well,
there are no words.
You, of course, in addition to talking about the timeline paradox, which we'll get into, this angelic phenomenon first appeared in the context of your work.
Right, and if there were no photographs of this, I would. Everybody around me, I would have told, just shut your mouth. And I'm being honest about it. I would not have wanted this out to the public at all. Because such things are very comfortable when you read about them occurring thousands of years ago.
But when it's happening to you.
Kind of like Renaissances. They're great a few hundred years later, but while they're happening, they're real bad. A lot of contentious things occur.
But you've had this.
It walked through the wall at me, and we have film. She's got full color video film of it, and we've got freeze frames, images here.
And while I find them, set up the stage, if you would, because this is an extraordinary component to all this. We're dealing with extraterrestrials, we're dealing with a timeline paradox, and then out of the blue almost, we're seeing that this